The 2026 FIFA World Cup is unlike any tournament we have ever seen before. For the first time in history, 48 teams are going to descend on the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and that expansion changes everything. Before every single World Cup, without fail, the football world goes through the same cycle. Certain teams get built up by their domestic media, inflated by reputation, or carried by the momentum of good qualifying campaigns, and when the tournament actually starts, reality hits hard. At the same time, there are always teams quietly doing serious work, teams whose rankings do not reflect how dangerous they actually are, teams that pundits wave away right until the moment they knock out someone enormous. And this video is about both ends of that spectrum. Let us start with the teams that the football world may be getting dangerously wrong on the overrated side. England. There is almost no way to start this conversation without talking about England. Every 4 years, the English press builds their national team into genuine title contenders, and every time the football world goes along with it because honestly, the talent is undeniable. You look at that squad and it reads like a Champions League fantasy draft. But there is a consistent and deeply frustrating pattern with England at major tournaments, and it is not about quality, it is about how they function under pressure in knockout football. The moment a game becomes slow, tense, and positional, England start to look uncomfortable. Their midfield, for all the individual quality involved, has repeatedly struggled to control matches the way elite tournament teams do. Controlling a World Cup knockout game is a different skill set than winning a Premier League match. It requires patience, positional discipline, and the ability to impose structure on a game that the opposition is actively trying to disrupt. England have shown flashes of that capability but have not delivered it consistently at the tournament level. Add to that the weight of expectation from a media machine that has been declaring football's homecoming for decades, and you have a team playing with enormous psychological pressure that they have not always handled well. The talent is real. The ceiling is high, but talent and tournament performance are two very different conversations, and England have not yet proven they can close that gap when it matters most. Belgium is another fascinating case study. If you follow club football, you know the names: De Bruyne, Lukaku, Courtois. That golden generation carried Belgium to a World Cup semi-final in 2018 and built a reputation as one of Europe's most dangerous sides. But time moves fast in football, and the honest question heading into 2026 is whether the reputation is outrunning the reality. That core group is aging. Some key players are dealing with injury concerns that have affected their form and availability over recent seasons. The squad is in a transitional moment, experienced enough to still be dangerous, but not as collectively devastating as the unit that peaked around 2018. The issue is that Belgium still gets treated in previews and power rankings as though they are that 2018 side because the names are still recognizable. When pundits are building their dark horse lists, Belgium often appear near the top out of habit as much as current evidence. Uruguay, a nation with 2 World Cup titles and a cultural identity forged entirely in the fires of high stakes, aggressive grinding. Historically, Uruguay is a nightmare to play against, but right now, their tactical engine leans dangerously hard on the chaotic shoulders of Darwin Núñez finding consistent form. Their competitive DNA alone makes them a baseline threat, but treating them as a guaranteed semi-finalist ignores the current cracks in their global squad depth. They aren't the elite, deep roster predators of the past. They are scrappy survivors fighting in a much bigger 48-team jungle, the United States. Hosting a World Cup is the ultimate tactical cheat code. You get the roar of the home crowd, absolute environmental familiarity, and an undeniable surge of adrenaline. The American program has genuinely evolved, exporting real talent to Europe's top leagues, but belief is not a tactical strategy. Until they prove they can stare down a European giant in a do-or-die elimination match and actually survive, the US remains a double-edged sword. They are armed with unprecedented hype, but entirely unproven when the oxygen leaves the room. Now let us talk about the teams that the football world may be systematically undervaluing, because this is where the 2026 World Cup could get genuinely fascinating. Croatia. Every 4 years, critics look at Luka Modric's birth certificate, declare the squad too old, and quietly write them off. And every 4 years, Croatia makes those critics look foolish. Reaching the final in 2018 and finishing third in 2022 wasn't a fluke. It is the result of a deeply embedded footballing science. Their midfield structure and pressing triggers are practically architectural. Croatia understands how to win ugly. They know how to survive the suffocating phases of a knockout game that make lesser teams panic. Playing Croatia isn't just a match, it's an agonizing lesson in patience. Japan, arguably the single most underrated team on the planet right now. If your mental model of Japanese football is stuck 10 years in the past, it's time to update it. Their players are now seamlessly integrated into the Bundesliga and Premier League, bringing elite tactical discipline back to the national side. Their pressing is organized, relentless, and suffocating. They don't just participate, they dismantle traditional European powerhouses with surgical precision. Draw Japan in a knockout round, and you are in for a blisteringly fast, incredibly uncomfortable afternoon. Norway. Historically, this is a nation that punches well below its weight in qualifying cycles, but the 2026 iteration possesses a devastating trump card: Erling Haaland. Knockout football is a cruel, unforgiving format that exponentially rewards elite finishing. You don't need to dominate the ball for 90 minutes, you just need one clinical strike. With Martin Odegaard serving as the creative engine and Haaland as the ruthless executioner, Norway is perfectly optimized for sudden death football. They are a wild card capable of conjuring a match-winning moment out of absolutely thin air. Ecuador and Paraguay. While the world watches Europe, South American analysts have been quietly terrified of these two for years. Surviving CONMEBOL, widely regarded as the most brutal qualifying gauntlet on Earth, requires a very specific type of grit. Both teams are built on impenetrable defensive structures and collective, frustrating mid-blocks. They won't dazzle you with highlight reel flair, but they will drag you into the mud. In a knockout scenario, where minimizing mistakes is everything, playing against these teams feels less like a football match and more like trying to run through wet cement. The high-variance wildcards: South Korea, Algeria, Ghana, and DR Congo. These are the teams that completely break analytical models. Depending entirely on the day, they either look like world beaters or disjointed strangers. In a sprawling 48-team tournament, this unpredictability is a venomous trait. They are the tactical equivalent of a dice roll, capable of creating absolute chaos and destroying the bracket of a heavily favored giant on a whim. The 2026 World Cup is designed for beautiful chaos, so let's hear from you. Drop it in the comments. Which overrated giant do you think will crumble first, and which underrated underdog is going to genuinely shock the globe? The conversation starts right now.